Welcome back to the deep dive. So if you've ever felt like your quiet, desperate struggles are just invisible, or maybe if you've wondered what real world-altering authority looks like.
Beyond the usual political or military power.
Exactly. Then this is the deep dive for you. We're getting into a fascinating stack of ancient sources today.
A collection that really forces you to rethink the whole relationship between profound humility and just absolute divine power.
We're drawing from the book of Samuel, Mark's gospel, and some supporting reflections on what they call the sovereign word.
That's right. And our mission today is pretty laser focused. We're tracing this powerful current that runs directly from deep sorrow all the way to ultimate sovereignty.
So we're looking for two kinds of authority here.
Two distinct but connected forms. First, you have the transforming power that comes from humble, answered prayer. The kind that just reverses human misery.
Okay.
And second, you've got this astonishing, immediate authority that commands even unseen spiritual forces.
So the central mission for you, the learner, is this. By the end of our conversation, we want you to really grasp what these texts reveal about genuine authority. And critically, why the people who saw it firsthand were so completely astonished by it. Okay, let's unpack this. We're not starting with a king or a prophet, but in a place called Shiloh, with a woman known only for her grief.
We begin with Hannah. Her story, which we find in 1 Samuel, is really defined by what she doesn't have children.
And the source paints a very dramatic picture. She's at the temple in Shiloh.
She is in, and this is a quote, bitterness of soul, just weeping uncontrollably, pouring out her prayer right there near the doorpost.
And there's a key detail about how she's praying.
A crucial detail. She's praying silently. Her lips are moving, but there's no audible voice. It's all internal.
She's pouring out all this misery and desperation, but in a way that's, completely personal.
And this silent internal act leads directly to this huge misunderstanding.
With Eli, the priest.
With Eli, the aged priest. He's sitting nearby, he sees her, and he just jumps to the worst possible conclusion.
He thinks she's drunk.
He thinks she's drunk. In public, in a holy place. And he rebukes her, pretty severely actually. He says, "How long will you make a drunken show of yourself? Sober up from your wine."
I mean, can you imagine the shame of that moment? You're already at rock bottom, and the highest religious authority just accuses you of being a ne'er-do-well.
But her defense is so powerful. It's so precise. She corrects him right away. "It isn't that, my lord."
She says she hasn't had any wine or liquor.
No. Instead, she explains that she was pouring out her troubles to the Lord, and it was all driven by her deep sorrow and misery.
And the context of that sorrow is what makes her vow so significant. She isn't just asking for a baby.
No, she's making a life-altering commitment.
Yeah.
She promises that if God grants her a son, he will be dedicated for life to divine service.
This is where we get that piece of cultural context that really elevates the whole story, the Nazirite vow. What she's promising for Samuel is a lifelong commitment.
Exactly. And the source gives us the specifics. The commitment is sealed by two key rules from that Nazirite covenant.
The first is about drink.
Right. He shall drink neither wine nor liquor.
And the second?
No razor shall ever touch his head. This is a profound, permanent act of sacrifice. It shows her desperation wasn't just selfish, it was a promise to give the blessing right back to God.
And this is where the power of, let's call it divine affirmation, really shows up. After Eli hears her out, he completely changes his tune.
He just offers a simple blessing. "Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him."
What stands out to me is what happens immediately after. The source says she replied, "Think kindly of your maidservant," then went to her quarters, she ate, and no longer appeared downcast.
The change is instantaneous, which is incredibly important.
Before she even knows if the prayer is answered.
Exactly. Before the miracle of conception even happens, just the blessing itself, the act of being heard and affirmed, it lifts her out of that deep sorrow. She gets peace before she gets the answer.
And the result of this tearful, misunderstood, humble prayer is, of course, Samuel.
The text says, "The Lord remembered her. She conceived, bore a son, and named him Samuel because, as she says, she had asked the Lord for him."
So the prayer of this shamed, barren woman ends up transforming her entire destiny and down the line, the destiny of all of Israel.
And that personal transformation, that private reversal of fortune, it just launches immediately into this universal statement about divine power in the next section, Hannah's own song.
The responsorial song.
Right. She moves right past her own personal joy to make this huge declaration about how God's authority actually works in the world. She says, My heart exults in the Lord, my Savior.
And this isn't just a happy song from a new mother.
Yeah.
It's like a radical manifesto about sovereignty. It feels like the source is laying out a systematic flipping of all the established hierarchies.
Oh, absolutely. The divine authority here is all about inversion. I mean, look at the military structure first.
Yeah.
In the ancient world, military might meant everything. But the psalm declares, the bows of the mighty are broken, while the pottering gird on strength. The powerful are disarmed, and the weakest are suddenly made strong.
And then it moves to the economic order, which would have been just as shocking.
Even more so, maybe. It says, the well-fed hire themselves out for bread, while the hungry batten on spoil. Just think about that. The rich are driven into servitude, and the starving suddenly have abundance.
Economic stability is just gone.
And then, of course, it hits on the very thing that caused Hannah's personal agony. The barren wife bears 7 sons, while the mother of many languishes.
It's a total reversal of fortune.
It defines divine control over life itself. The Lord puts to death and gives life. He makes poor and makes rich. He humbles, he also exalts. He's the master of fortune.
Which raises a key question then. Who is this authority primarily for? Who is the target of this reversal?
And the text is explicit about that. It's the poor, the marginalized. The image it uses is just astonishing. It says, God raises the needy from the dust. From the dung heap, he lifts up the poor.
From the dung heap. That's about as low as you can get.
It's the literal waste pile of society. And he doesn't just lift them up to be okay. He grants them a glorious throne, their heritage. You're taken from the trash and seated with nobles.
So true divine authority is defined by its power to completely invert the human order.
Exactly. And to elevate the most humble.
Okay, so that's the power accessed through humble prayer, a profound reversal. Now we have to shift from that quiet, tearful authority to something much more public and dramatic.
Right. Let's go to the Gospel of Mark.
We're in the Capernaum synagogue on the Sabbath. Jesus is teaching.
And the reaction of the crowd tells us everything we need to know. They were astonished at his teaching.
And the text is really clear about why. It says he taught as one having authority and not as the scribes.
Okay, so what does that distinction actually mean? The scribes were the experts, right? They knew the law. Why wasn't their teaching astonishing?
It's a crucial difference. Scribal authority was, well, it was derivative, meaning a scribe taught by quoting precedent. Rabbi so-and-so said this, or the tradition says that. Their authority came from citing a long line of other teachers.
I see.
But Jesus speaks from inherent power. He doesn't cite sources. He speaks as the source. And that's what was so new, so astonishing to them. It was a self-sufficient authority.
So if the teaching was surprising, the demonstration of that authority must have been explosive.
And that demonstration comes immediately, right there in the synagogue. A man with an unclean spirit cries out.
And the spirit, this unseen force, recognizes and fears the authority instantly, way before the humans in the room can process it.
What does it say?
It screams, "What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God."
So the spirit doesn't ask who he is, it knows. And that knowledge is terrifying to it.
Exactly. It acknowledges his divine nature and his power. And then the command that follows, the simplicity of it is just the ultimate measure of this authority. No long ritual, no complex prayer, nothing. Jesus just rebukes it with 2 direct, absolute commands. Quiet, come out of him.
The power isn't persuasive, it's just command. Tell us what happens next, because the source makes it a very physical, visceral event.
It's a violent, observable act of submission. The text says the spirit convulsed him and with a loud cry came out of him.
So this wasn't a quiet exit.
Not at all. It was a physical upheaval that just demonstrated absolute spiritual defeat. The force that was enslaving the man was literally thrown out by a single word.
And the crowd's reaction just wraps it all up. Their astonishment finally becomes understanding.
Right. They start questioning each other, putting the pieces together. What is this? A new teaching with authority. He commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him.
And that direct, visceral display of power is why his fame just exploded across Galilee. He didn't just teach the truth, he commanded reality.
And if we bring these 2 narratives together, you can really see the 2 sides of divine sovereignty converging.
How so?
Well, Hannah's story, driven by her humble prayer, it resulted in divine power transforming her life. It was a miracle of creation, of reversing fate.
And in Capernaum.
The people saw divine authority transform a person bound by a spirit. That was a miracle of liberation, of restoring order, but both are based on the same kind of absolute power.
And the supporting reflections on the sovereign word help connect these dots. Jesus' authority isn't just about being in charge.
No, it flows from his union with the Father and his profound active love for humanity. So this authority is inherently creative and restorative. It lifts up the humble, and it brings order where there's chaos.
So the sovereign word has the power to do more than just instruct. It can actually reshape reality.
It has the power to drive out unclean spirits and restore order and peace, bringing real healing and freedom. This is the effect of the authority that stunned those crowds. The same power that answered Hannah's silent sorrow commanded that loud spirit to leave.
Bringing this back to you, the learner, this deep dive is really a call to look at where this kind of authority might apply in our own lives.
Right. The message is to listen to that sovereign word, because it's meant to confront and free us from, and I'm quoting, whatever enslaves our hearts.
So whether it's a deep sorrow that feels like Hannah's misery, or it's some internal chaos that seems impossible to overcome,
that sovereignty is still actively seeking to turn our perceived failures into unexpected triumphs.
That's a profound connection between the silent desperation of one woman and the commanding voice of Jesus. We've seen authority defined not by status, but by its ability to lift the forgotten and free the bound.
So to summarize, we've moved from a weeping, misunderstood woman who receives this miraculous reversal of fortune, all the way to a powerful teacher whose single word silences spiritual opposition and commands the forces of chaos.
So true authority, according to these sources,
is defined by its commitment to inversion, to lifting the humble from the dung heap, and restoring creation through a liberating word.
That is a challenging thought to end on. But before we wrap up, here's a final provocative thought, taken right from our source material, for you to take with you this week.
What area of your life, that place of deep sorrow or internal bondage, do you need to surrender to the authority of Jesus so that his powerful word may bring healing and freedom?
These stories show that divine authority isn't some distant historical idea. It's a present, active force.
A force that responds to radical humility and commands immediate liberation. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the sovereignty of the humble.